on day release. Demon sub tries not to crease, and Demon's keeping nice and warm in bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the Candyman is opening another can. Technical difficulties, they're really such a crime. Technical difficulties, they happen all the time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop time. Sometimes they're salty about the gaming biz, and nobody knows who Upworlder is. Technical difficulties, they're really such a crime. Technical difficulties, they happen all the time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop 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 time.
Evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. Good to see you all. Hope you had a good week since we were last here. Just chilling with a pipe. Just having. I might do some work tonight. I might skive off. We'll see how things go.
We've got a non-salty stream, boys and girls. We're raving tonight.
Yeah, we have got nothing but overwhelming positivity oozing from every...
No, there is still some negatives. It's just we're not going to get salty about them.
Oh, fair comment. Well, I did try. You can't say that I didn't try. Okay, so first of all, let's see who's in the chat. I noticed that Tim, some dude on YouTube, popped in briefly. He's gone to get his ass kicked at BattleTech, so no doubt he'll be back later if he doesn't manage to play too long. Hello to Darren, Demon Sub on Instagram. Good to see you, sir. Now then, Darren is always tipped off. Oh, I don't think... No, Darren hasn't told us what he's working on yet. That's unlike him. That's hello to Spam and Egg. That's David's other half.
He's doing yet more Gundam tonight. A big green.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I've just seen it. Well, okay. You and your Gundams, Darren. So yeah, Spam is David's other half. She's filling her face with homemade brownie and ice cream. That's rude. Hello, Crispin. Who's probably at work, so he'll be flitting in and out like he normally does. Hello to Upworlder, that's Trevor from our club. Hello to Shakos and Spruce. Now then, James, you're in Berlin. Why are you in Berlin, sir? Is this a gaming related in Berlin? Was machst du? Or
no, he's recreating World War II, mate.
Okay.
He landed on the beaches on Thursday and he's been fucking bombing in since.
Dressed
at it, and he's in Berlin now.
Dressed in his reenactment gear. Yeah, so if you're free to tell us what you're doing in Berlin, do so. Unless it's boring and work and real life related, in which case we're not interested because we're only in for make-believe here on the stream. And that's it. Hello to everybody. Welcome to the show, guys.
The intro's done already. Have we bollocked into it and got through it all?
Yeah, well, there's a few regulars not here yet, but they may turn up later. So we'll see who's... Well, not only that, we might have some lurkers, remember. I might have some lurkers. So, if it's your first time here, welcome to the show. Over the next couple of hours, David and I will be following our usual routine. First of all, we'll tell you what we're going to be working on tonight, because this is a hobby live stream after all. So, possibly ought to do some hobby. That's sort of like in the description, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy's right, Darren. That's all you've been doing. Bloody Gundams. Still,
Darren, can I ask you a question? Are you going to be getting the new Gundam game when it releases later this year?
fair question. Also, we've got another thing we can ask you as well. When we get into the news. So yeah, we'll tell you what we're going to be working on. We'll discuss what we got up to at club. We'll share some news off the internet, talk about some YouTube videos and bits like that. And then at 9 o'clock-ish, probably a bit late. That's the way we roll here.
I was going to say, we might actually go a little bit early, might we, tonight? Because we've got a jam-packed final hour.
Darren says probably. He's definitely
going
going to get some of the Gundam minis and paint them. Okay, mate. That's fair enough. I'm still on the fence about this new Gundam game, whatever it's called. It's early days, I know, but to me it looks more like a board game impersonating a miniatures game. It reminds, like with the old Hex board and that.
It's a board game masquerading as a minis game.
Okay, so they've postponed it till 2026 anyway. That's fair.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What else? Yeah. And then about 9 o'clock, as I say, we'll get into our main theme. Now, we are going to maybe start... We'll see how it goes. You'll have to let us know what you guys think in the comments under the video. But David and I thought... David and I...
is appreciated.
Yeah, we thought we'd do a why we love sort of idea and just talk about a game that we're big fans of. And, just sort of talk about something specific and try and keep it, because sometimes our streams have quite a negative edge, but I guess that's what sells on YouTube. We wanted to do something a little bit more positive. So as we're coming to the end of our Red King campaign in Frostgrave, in the next week or two, isn't it, mate?
Not next week, the week after.
Yeah. We're doing the final scenario. We thought we'd sort of like discuss Frostgrave by Joseph McCulloch, the miniatures war game, and what we love about it, and see how it goes. Like I say.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
would you like to see what I have just been doing this evening while getting ready for stream?
Come on then, let's show everybody. We want that one. Bing! There you go. You're live on the internet. Don't say fuck or bugger.
Well, fuck it. I have not long replaced my FEP sheets.
These are mine. These are
these are what I ran off the pool last night. These are fucking amazing, dude. These dudes with the Oni demon masks. They're fucking gorgeous.
So just give everybody the lowdown. So these are miniatures.
So, Artisan Guild sculpts. These are from two different sets. One is a demon set. One is like an abyssal set. And actually, to be fair, both of these are out of the demon set. So actually, I tell a lie. It's the other ones that are going on printer shortly that are the other set. These are going to be stand-ins for Frostgrave darters or stingers.
Oh no, this is inside out. Yeah,
Which
these are monsters for the Frostgrave Red King campaign, and in there's like these demons that are servants of.
Look at the size of the crossbow for him.
The Red
it's
King.
Ridiculous.
I don't know how you pronounce it, but they're Hrut, Hrut, and they come in various forms. You've got like little Hrut warriors with swords and shields. You've got winged Hruts with crossbows, and then you've got great big guys with two-handed weapons.
Long hammer.
Yeah. So David's printing me an assortment, a smorgasbord of these miniatures, so that we can
And
play
I
with
just
the.
snuck Jolly Roger onto the edge of that build plate to replace the Jolly Roger that fucked up my FEP sheet.
And this
Can you
was.
spot the difference?
Oh yeah, so it's the belt, the pistol at the belt.
All the belt and everything got fucked because of a hole in my FEP sheet. So
Yeah.
I built her, and I'm going to do her as a demo model, but she's the one that's going to actually go in my Bloodfields Warband. Then when I finish off after stream tonight, because I'm not an absolute psychopath, there will be some normal Hrut warriors and some Red King keepers going on.
Oh yeah,
Pinter
for
ready
the final
tomorrow.
scenario.
The main thing I'm working on while I'm on stream, you've been here before, boys and girls.
Yeah.
We're nearly there. We've got to just get them across the hill. So the Claws of Karanak, which is the Khorne warband, literally just need a couple of like bits of trouser painted in a couple of places, and a couple of bits of like cordage and like wrapping on weapons. So that's them tonight. Then once I've probably got them finished, we're going to go back to my Skirgan True Blaze, which are the vampire themed Warcry warbands. Going to redo the base tones on the skin because it's a pro acryl and it's a little patchy in places. So I want to get some decent coverage on before I do the wash step, because again, we're going with a white. Where is it? It's somewhere. It's lurking. I fucking literally had it not 5 minutes ago. There we go.
Gosh.
Bright warm grey over an orange. Doesn't really work.
Okay.
So that's what I'm mainly focusing on.
So what flesh tone are you going to do with those? Is that the base tone?
That's the base tone, and then I'm going to go in with like a blue, dark blue, or a purpley colour wash for the recesses of the skin. I'm going to keep it very pale and grey.
Yeah, I think
just go in and do some little edge bits and pieces here and there.
I mean, the blue will balance nicely with the red, yellowy orange. That should look pretty cool, man. So yeah, okay, that's what David's up to. We are sticking with what we've been working on for the last 2 weeks. I need to get my arse in gear and get another project. To be fair, David did mention my saga, so I need to get
your
them
Warcry,
doing
your saga. What else have you got on the list to do?
So this is we're going to keep working with Antonia. There's not really much left to do on here. There's the hair, which I'm definitely going to do as some sort of like greyish blonde. We've got all the accoutrements that are hanging on this waist belt, like ladles and little bottles of potion and that sort of shit, and the cauldron, which is just going to be black, and then the contents of the cauldron, which are going to be some sort of green.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
How are you finding the multi-award winning Moonstone miniatures? And the reason I ask that is I found mine a little intense to paint. And by intense, I mean they were a cunt to get into some of the recesses and the areas. I think your sculpts are definitely better for painting. They look easier to paint. But how are you feeling about them, mate?
No, touch wood, so far I've not had any that were a real pain in the arse.
Well, again, it's like you saw on my Swiggetty and everything else. Everything fucking overlaps everything else, and they're just a bit of a twat.
The Night Witch, whose name I can't remember, she's
Deanna.
Yeah, could be something like that. But because she's sort of like zombified, there were hollows in her torso that were quite awkward to get to.
Yeah.
And the Knoll, which is like the woodland troll creature, he'd got quite a lot of stuff overhanging, so he'd got like greenery and bits of cloth hanging, so he was a bit fiddly. But I wouldn't. I've certainly painted worse.
I just wanted the feedback because again, Darren's just said there 1 or 2 of the miniatures absolute twats to paint. The others fine. So I think I just picked bad sets.
Well,
picked bad minis. Do you know what I mean? They're really nice minis, but they're bad in the fact that they overlap and they're annoying
I
and
think
that kind of thing.
my worst one is going to be the Eric on the moose. Because I
Yeah.
think actually painting Eric himself, because obviously he's like an armored knight on the moose. If I can get him out of the storage box, and put him on camera for everybody, I think this is going to be my biggest nightmare, because obviously we've got the back of the shield. I haven't kept everything separate, so I've got to paint in there between his leg and his shield, which is going to be awkward as
Yeah,
fuck.
you love that, mate.
And again, like all painting the rider in place on a mount is never the easiest thing. I mean, yes, I could have kept it all separate, but I hate doing that. I just like to get miniatures assembled. To be fair, you know, I've just had a thought. I think from memory, when I assembled this, the moose comes as a front half and a back half, and I think he's actually in place. His arms are extra, but I think actually most of him is in place on the mount. So
Yeah, so it's not like you have a
there
massive
wasn't a
amount.
lot I could do with it. But he probably will be the most awkward, and he's a big old miniature, to be honest. There's a lot going on there.
The other thing is he is a bit of a centerpiece miniature as well, isn't he?
True. I mean, again,
Just because of the lore and the setting and everything else.
not only that, I mean, big miniatures. I'm not. I don't know what other people think, but do you know? Whoa! I don't know what other people think, but I'm not necessarily a fan of larger miniatures. I do like painting standard 28mm figures. I'm really not a fan of big feature pieces and that sort of thing. I guess because I feel obligated to work that little bit harder for them, and I'm just generally a paint to play guy. It just seems more work than I can be arsed with.
Yeah.
The I mean, in terms of the miniature quality, I think they're all great. And I tell you what, I don't think they have too much detail. Like this tat that's hanging around Antonia's waist. This is probably the most cluttered miniature out of all 6 that I've got.
Darren says his sweet spot's ogre or troll sized minis.
Yeah, that's probably my limit for enjoying it. I suppose if they go, I mean, again, there are some exceptions, things like tanks, anything that you can tackle with an airbrush. But even then, like if you tackle a tank or something like that and do most of it with an airbrush, you've still got a surprising amount of detail painting and fucking decals and
washing, and again, if
yeah.
you want to go that guy, because again, you're just going relatively easy with your camo and everything, streaking or dust effects. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like you say, there just seems to be the bigger the model gets, the more steps there seems to be, which can be a bit of a ball ache. So, let's crack on with the show. So, first of all, let's talk about what we did at Club Mate, shall we? Let's have a look here.
Oh yeah, we can actually, because this week was a good week, wasn't it, dude?
Yeah. It was very good in terms of
first Monday of the month is our board game night. So typically one of us will bring a board game and we will play it as a group. So this month I bought Mythic Battles Ragnarok. Paul did have all his Mythic Battles Pantheon in the car, but the pussy didn't want to get it out because he wanted to play with some Norse gods and goddesses.
Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me necessarily to cross the streams, and I'd never played with the Ragnarok characters, so I was totally up for just playing with the Ragnarok models, mate. And it was a 4-player game, wasn't it? 2v2.
Yeah, so it was me and you versus Alex and Luke.
Yep.
13 runes on the board. first to 7 as a team wins.
And I think
Pretty much the aim of the game.
Yeah, we ended up winning 7-2.
7-3. 7-3, I think it was in the end.
In the end. So a bit one-sided, but Luke was brand new to the game.
Yeah.
I think Alex had played twice.
Alex has played 2 or 3 times now,
Yeah.
I think.
So
you've played Pantheon.
Yeah.
So you had a little bit of an idea, but not a huge amount. Do you know what I mean?
Nice on Ewok.
But it was a very good game. I think we just stumbled upon the list and the synergies that worked for me, because again, you went more control.
Yeah.
And I went fucking super aggro. Angraboda, Loki's daughter. Fuck me, does she hit like a freight train in this game?
Yeah. I think.
What did I do? I did like 10 wounds in 3 combats.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
mental.
it wasn't even necessarily the damage output. That Angraboda miniature, if you can see Angraboda, if everybody's looking at this photo,
is the black one in the middle of that melee.
Is the blackish miniature there, right? Sort of like up just north of center of that image, and basically, she dragged 4 of our opponent's miniatures into that area because they all went in to try and kick the crap out of her, and they ended up getting locked down there, and obviously that tied up so much of our opponent's forces. We were able to go on a bit of a spree and start hoovering up the objectives. So as I say, it was a bit of a one-sided game. It was a good game, but like David said, I think we hit upon, because this is what for those who haven't played the Mythic Battles miniatures, one of the things I like about the Mythic Battles games, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking Pantheon, Ragnarok, and I'm assuming the new one, what's the new Egyptian one called? Isfet. I'm assuming the new Egyptian one will be the same. When you at the start of the board game, you have a draft, so all the gods and heroes and monsters are put out on the board, and then the players draft their teams. And obviously, as you become more familiar with the models in the game, there are obvious combos with miniatures that work quite well together. But because it's an alternating draft, you can stop your opponent from drafting super hard combos to beat you. And it's a really neat way to balance what's a very complex game, because the players effectively self-balance through their own expertise. It's a very clever system. Very clever system.
The other nice thing about it, first time we've ever played it at 4-player, just as fun as playing at 2-player.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is my first time playing a larger multiplayer game like that, and like you say, just as much fun as head-to-head. The only thing that is a real shame about this game, because the player interaction is so key to it, it doesn't do well as a solo game. There is, I believe, solo scenarios.
There is solo rules, solo rules, solo scenarios, but it definitely feels better playing against a human, because again, the other thing with the human is you have that deck aspect, and even if their hands flooded out with certain things, a player may do something completely off-piste that an AI wouldn't do. Do you know what I mean?
How does the solo play work in the Ragnarok version? Is it scenarios in the book, or?
Yeah, it's just the scenarios.
And do they list the models you must take?
Yeah.
Because I know for Pantheon didn't have one, but there are free ones on Mythic, on not Mythic Games, because it's now owned by
Monolith.
Monolith. So if you go to Monolith's website, they have solo scenarios for Pantheon, but they're basically scripted. So it says you take the player takes this selection of models, and the enemy models are this, and then you run the AI like this. And I can see why they had to do it that way, but it is a shame that it hasn't got more room as a solo experience.
And again, particularly with like some cards or some dice, that AI system could have been done way better.
Probably.
Well, again, look at Imperium and how the solo AI system works in Imperium. There's a reference card, and basically you're flipping the particular cards in that deck to see what happens, etc.
Okay, I've never played it, but you have.
If you had a like an AI control card for solo with these models do this, these models do that, etc.
Yeah.
And you just pick the cards that you need.
Maybe you
should running that scenario.
Maybe you should try and design something a bit more flexible. That would be
I'm already busy enough.
That would be a cool thing, though. We could that would be really cool to design a true solo fucking bolt-on mode to for the Mythic Battles games.
But anyway, I thought you didn't like solo games, dickhead.
Well, I no miniature games.
This has got miniatures in.
It's a board game with miniatures. Don't fucking start with that. This is, just in case anybody's wondering, this is not, I repeat, not a miniatures war game. This is a board game with miniatures. I will die on this hill. Okay?
Well, unfortunately, you'll be dying very quickly. Is it the news?
No.
Oh, it is the painting competition.
So we also, evening Toros. Good to see you, sir. No, not a proper game, Darren. Oh, harsh. Look, mate, there's nothing wrong with board games as long as they're aware of what they are. I'm looking at you, Underworlds. Okay.
Blood Bowl.
I would still call Blood Bowl a board game with miniatures. If you're asking me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's masquerading as a miniatures war game. Refer to previous statements, Your Honour, of so long as they know what they are.
No, Toros, it looks like I'm probably dying on a two-dimensional hill printed on a game board that's marked with hexagons.
Or squares, depending on your...
Do you know what? 3D or not? That is the question, Shakos. That is very much the question.
Oh, that's nearly a stream topic. We'll come to that after.
Oh my god, it's the ones and zeros again. It was also first Monday of the month, so we had a painting competition, but it turned out not to be a competition because apparently only one person could be asked to enter anything. So, it was the theme for this month's painting competition was Love's Company.
Yes, it was Love's Company.
And I thought I was rather clever by painting my Maxine list for Gaslands. So, for those of you who have not played Gaslands, Maxine has a rule in their faction. I can't remember what it's called.
They're like a ballerina faction.
So the
main intent and purpose of them is dick around on the board, spin and slide and stuff close to your colleague, but don't hit your colleague.
Yeah,
I think it's either within short or medium range.
Medium. If you
get audience votes.
Yeah, I think if you, like David says, basically the idea is that you dance with each other on the tabletop. So if you execute a spin or a slide maneuver within and finish within medium of one of your teammate cars, you get an audience vote. So obviously I thought that was good fit for the theme. And they weren't too difficult to paint up, so I was able to get them done in a couple of days.
2 buggies here?
Yes, so we've got 2 buggies equipped. Basically, it's 2 cars identical. They've got side-mounted flamethrowers and front-mounted machine guns. And then they've both got the same 3 upgrades. So they've got the one where they only take 1 hazard regardless of how many spins or slides they resolve in an activation.
Yeah.
Which I think it's called purring. I think they've got taunt, which allows them to put hazards on enemy vehicles that end within short.
Yeah.
Because again, the idea is they want to be close and personal with the old flamethrowers, really. Yeah, you've mentioned that before, Ewok. So Ewok says he's never really taken to the factions in Gaslands. Why? I mean, we've probably talked about it before.
3D printed side mounted exhausts.
Yes, yeah.
Are they the ones I did you?
Hello, Cheese Me. Good to see you, mate. Yeah. What? Why is that? Because I tell you why I'm a bit. I don't know what I would say about the faction. What I like. Here we go. So, what I like about the factions in Gaslands is that it makes you build things that you wouldn't normally build in terms of lists.
Yeah, everything that was sort of cookie cutter, there's now arguments and reasons for taking it. And the other thing is there's diversity even within a faction. So you've got Idris motorbike build that doesn't need a ton of NOS to boost and get audience votes, or you have just stick a ton of NOS on a car and hope for the best. Mishkin, a lot of electrical and weird and wacky shit.
No, I have never used any of the Vallejo aerosols, Toros. I don't think you have either, mate, have you?
No. And is it an aerosol Toros or is it a coloured primer, polyprimer?
He says the spray, so I'm assuming you don't mean the actual airbrush primer, do you?
Since when did Vallejo do spray cans?
I guess they must. Explain, Toros. Is it an aerosol? Or is it the airbrush primer? What
and
are
again,
you talking about?
Ewok
says normally game factions inspire me for creativity and I get a torrent of ideas. No, it's not the airbrush, so it is an aerosol. To be fair, Teros, we've never used them. Yeah, we've never used Vallejo rattle cans, so couldn't tell you, mate, whether they're any good or not, or whether they're a close match.
Or not.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're going with like the factions, and in fact, it is quite difficult to the factions do make playing the game not they make it a bit counterintuitive and not necessarily as easy. It's easier to play Gaslands without the factions because when you look at the when you look at the sort of like abilities and upgrades you can get for the cars, you can sort of see how they would work in a game. But once you add like essentially,
well, again,
it
didn't really click for you the dice and the movement mechanic until you played Miyazaki.
No,
did it?
No.
Of watching me play Miyazaki and just basically rolling the dice constantly because it's built into as part of their faction that they can do a re-roll for free per turn, and obviously you're trying to push it to gain audience votes. And again, with Miyazaki, you don't really want to be running more than one car because you're making your life harder than it needs to be.
Plus the fact, I think, when you start to build lists that can abuse some of the faction rules and start to harvest a significant amount of audience votes, you realise how powerful that is. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I think they're talking about doing that, aren't they? A campaign version of Gaslands with driver upgrades. Isn't that either a downloadable thing or an upgrade that's coming?
I don't know.
So regarding these, do you use? Are you trying these Vallejo rattle cans for the first time, Toros? Or I mean, I know you've asked about the colour match, but do you know what they're like quality-wise? I don't think there's anywhere that sells them around here. And a system to run a stable of cars and drivers. Yeah, yeah. I am right, aren't I, Ewok? It's either already been done as a digital expansion or it's coming. Am I right? Am I wrong? You'll have to let me know. I'm just going to quickly Google these Vallejo aerosol.
Anyway, did we have any entrants from people at home?
Fucking hell. Okay. No, we didn't. It was literally just me. So, yay, I win.
You win by default. Boys and girls, your next theme, if you choose to accept it, is champion.
Yes, nice and simple. So, if you want to take part in the... if you want to take part... Vallejo spray paints. Let's have a look at this. If you want to take part in the paint competition, we will be judging in club next on Monday the 7th of April. So we'll be discussing it on stream on Thursday the 10th of April. The sort of like theme is champion. So fill your boots. I don't know that there's a lot of these. The only one I can see is the English uniform one. Maybe it's just like a one-off.
Or is it that new?
Maybe it's a new thing. As Toros said. Champion is a great idea in Northern slang. What's a wonder horse? Oh my god. Oh my god. I wonder if I can get a Lone Ranger mini. That would be fucking awesome. Champion the Wonder Horse. I'd forgotten all about that. Get Tonto. Because Champion was Tonto's horse, correct? They've been around for years. No April Fool's theme. Cheese me. Do you know what? I'm going to sound like a right fucking curmudgeon here. But I've commented before on stream. I hate fucking April Fool's YouTube videos. Just stop. Like, they're just shit. They're lame ass.
Alright, old man, who pissed in your cornflakes?
You know, I've so rarely seen a funny one or a clever... In fact, do you know what? Nobody will even get it because it's so fucking... Oh, it was a completely different thing. What was... Tonto's horse was Scout, wasn't it? Yes, no, hang on. It's all coming back to me now.
You showing your Alzheimer's?
Champion the Wonder Horse was something else. Was it like fucking Lassie, but with a horse? I can just imagine. Fucking hell. Maybe I'll have to fucking get on YouTube, watch some back episodes of Champion the Wonder Horse. I do remember the theme tune. As sort of scarred me. Probably a thing from the 1970s. Fucking haunting me. Champion the Wonder Horse. Right. What else? That's club night done. That's painting comp done. That's what we're painting. No. No, Lone Ranger rode Silver and Tonto rode Scout, I believe. Fact check me on Google now. No, Taunton, that's a town in the west of England, isn't it? Right. Let's try this.
It's the part of the show that we have come to know as the latest salty blizzard of nerdy sorrow. More news than you can shake the salt at. Salt at. More news than you can shake the salt at.
There you go. It's the news. Hope you enjoyed that. Right, okay, let's look at some news, shall we? Da 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 da.
What's in the news this week, Paul?
What part did William tell? Fucking Toros, you just being weird now, mate. Right, web browser. We don't want to see about Vallejo. Let's go to... Right, well, we've been talking Gundam, and David and I have talked about this before on stream, mostly when we had a slightly less than positive play experience at UKGE. But it's approaching fast. So this is Gav Thorpe and Andy Chambers' new miniatures game, Zeogenesis. Now, I think it's launching on GameFound.
Yes, it is on GameFound, but it's only on as a preview right now. It's not actually up.
It is going live sometime in March, he said. Fact checked below. So, basically, Dave from MS Paints. Did you watch this in the end, mate?
Did I? Fuck.
Okay, Dave from MS Paints has basically done a little video. He's been sent all of the stuff, the 3D print prototypes from the guys who are doing Zeogenesis, and he's just doing it. He just does a little painting video on the two warbands or the two teams, whatever the fuck they're called, that come in the base game. It's a cool video. He does a sort of flip through of the rules and discusses the project and the game in very general terms. He doesn't at all go into any nuts and bolts. But I believe if you watch this video, the playtest beta rules are available for download. So if you want to, you can go and try this game out. If you've got yourself a little bit of a mech and futuristic soldier collection, go and give the game a try.
To be fair, we should probably give it another try after our less than tactful play experience.
Do you know what? I know the guys didn't do, the chap that was doing it for us didn't do a fantastic job of selling the game, but I've played worse. I wouldn't say that I was like, oh, that was a shit game. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't the best game I've ever played, but it wasn't terrible.
The main problem was how it was demonstrated.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually the game itself that was the issue here. Was
yeah.
It? Let's
No,
be
I mean,
brutally honest.
Yeah. I would certainly be up for giving this game a chance with me sort of playing it myself. War Master, really, Toros? I might have to check that out. Is that because there's a specific channel or a couple of channels that have popped up? Or why is that suddenly made a comeback? That seems an odd thing to have a resurgence now. I take it there's no rumour of it coming back, or no chance of it coming back. Which is a shame, but I imagine that's the case. So yeah, go and check out this video on MS Paints. As usual, it's got Dave's fantastic flair behind it, so it's a really watchable video.
Cinematography to die for, because Dave.
And I tell you what, as well, he does a slightly odd Fallout-esque yellow and blue paint scheme on one of the teams. And in his very self-deprecating Dave way, he basically says, yeah, it's a bit shit. But, you know, I like that sort of lack of artifice sometimes in my YouTube content. I like people who don't take themselves or what they're doing far too seriously.
No fucks given.
Yeah, definitely. As he says, he might at some
Definitely.
point go back and fix it if he can be bothered. It could just be the algorithm dredging them up, Cheese Me. You're right. It could be all sorts of things. The YouTube algorithm is a freakish beast, which I've not even bothered to try and comprehend. What else have we got? Well, okay, so Xeogenesis, new game. Now, David and I obviously have our pledge not to start a new game this year. And I think
It's becoming increasingly hard by the day.
yeah, Xeogenesis isn't giving us sleepless nights. However, this next one is. So, TT Combat are still putting out content for their Battle Zone Commander and Strike Team Commander 28mm games based in the same universe as Drop Zone and Drop Fleet. And
Interestingly, I found out today that they realised they fucked up and they didn't include a strike team rule set, so they've included that in the stretch goals and stuff today. And as another stretch goal, boys and girls,
yes.
if you buy the Battlezone 2 player starter, you also get the resin tanks at 30 quid a pop included in your base game pledge.
Oh, that's
They're
handy.
making it fucking ridiculously good value right now.
Do you know what?
Please bear in mind, though, it's TT Combat resin.
I tell you what, Toros, because of the... Is it... It's Rock, isn't it? ROK that produces those great STLs for all of the War Master proxies. I tell you what, if they've revamped that rule set, I might have a look at that. Because one of the things I wanted to do this year was drag some of the guys into the club back into Epic. Because obviously there's still a fan-maintained rule set of Epic available online. And I've got loads of fucking plastic for it. I don't have many of the resin and metal other pieces, but a lot of the plastics from Space Marine I've got a ton of. And I did rate those rule sets when they were out. I really enjoyed them. Yes, this video is not the most professionally executed, Cheese Me. I will give you that. But it is a video about the game, and if you're at all interested in the Battlezone game, then it's probably worth going and watching. Yes, these people are not the slickest, and the production quality is basically this static shot from about 3/4 of a mile away with no other camera angles. So essentially, we could have filmed it, couldn't we, mate?
I mean, you'd probably have put some animations on it and made your life harder than it needed to be. But
Yeah,
we'll gloss over that subject matter.
I think, to be fair, when you say that we'd have put more effort in, that's pretty damning. As criticisms go.
I was about to ask, did the video itself have any technical difficulties?
It did actually. There was the girl there who's playing, that I can't remember her name. It is in the credits at the beginning of the video, but she struggles to count casualties through most of it, and either takes off too many or too few models. Most of the time, she's asked to remove them. Whether that's because she's sort of like starstruck at being on camera, or whether she's hungry and wants a dinner, I don't know. But it is very funny. The only thing I will say, right, this is the complete this is like a Paul anti-game. Normally when I sit here and pontificate on this channel, which I'm free to do because it's my channel,
are you though?
You guys know that I'm a rules guy and I don't really give a shit about the miniatures. This game has got the opposite effect for me. I really like the look of the miniatures in the Kickstarter, particularly factions like the Scourge and the Shaltari. I'm not that inspired by the rules. because it's basically just like the D6 plus energy system from Drop Zone, which I guess is great for accessibility, but I don't think that the thing is they're playing it super
They've not
fucking
really
safe.
pushed the boat out. It, as you say, it's very much, well, this is what this is, and it's what that is.
And I am in a real dilemma. I do love the universe. I love the lore. I think the models are fabulous. But again, I just look at.
And if you're all backing it for the terrain, because the terrain is very good value.
That is true.
Between friends.
I will almost certainly be backing the Kickstarter, but probably for the terrain only. Because the pre-coloured ruins and city block style futuristic terrain. Oh, it's not cheap, but it's pre-coloured and it's 4x4 table coverage for 200 quid, pre-coloured, finished, and the products look smart. But I don't know. I'm still on the fence with this. I don't really know.
I'm finding it hard. I've
In what way,
specifically
mate?
sort of not paid it any attention and or care, because I know if I do look at it too closely, I'm going to be in the hole for money, because I love the Drop Zone universe.
Yeah.
And like yourself, yes, the game may not play too differently, but 28mm Drop Zone, do you know what I mean? I can bait and badger some other people to get into the Drop Zone universe, then bully them into, for example, trying a game of Drop Fleet or trying a game of what's it called?
You see,
Drop
that's
Zone, etc.
This is the other thing that's occurred to me. I've almost like tried to justify it to myself and say, well, you could play like a weird campaign thing where you play a Drop Zone game, then a Battle Zone game, and then a Strike Team game, and you can link it all together.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you could, Paul, but in reality, whenever people come up with these sort of like Heath Robinson campaign affairs, whoever plays them and whoever finishes them when they start...
said about doing like Kings of War and fucking Armada, and yet we haven't. Do you know what I mean? It's
the 6mm sci-fi models on the Weekender. Are they?
Yes, that's from Modiphius. Oh, what's the fucking game called? I did mean to send it to you. Bollocks. Bear with.
What is this?
Internet. Internet's going to help.
What is this? So yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Bear with me, because I'm just loading the Beasts of War article right now. Hard War miniatures from Modiphius.
Okay, right. I'm going to Google them in a minute and have a look. The only other thing that I will say while we're talking about this and it's on my mind, UCM as I don't know, is it USC proxies for Aliens
Halo,
versus Predator?
Yeah, the Marine Corps.
Yeah, the Marines in AVP, those UCM miniatures are made for it. Absolutely fucking made for it.
Hey, that's maybe a justification for yourself. I know, obviously, you saying you like Sholtari, but that's possibly a justification for you getting UCM.
Do you know what?
You can use it for both.
Well, do you know what? Even if we don't play this game, I could get the UCM base pledge just because actually it's not easy to... Obviously, I've got the Hunt Begins, the AVP Miniatures War game, and I do have the AVP Miniatures War game now long dead and out of print. I want to play this with Ricky particularly, but anybody else who wants to try it at the club. I have plenty of Predators because they're so elite. You only need like fucking 10 models to build an army because they're ridiculous. I have a reasonable range of the by
Aliens.
yeah, the xenomorphs as they're called. So I've got plenty of those from when they fire sailed this at Prodos. The one thing that I didn't get, because there wasn't a huge range of them, there was basically the same 10-man marine unit in a resin that you could buy multiples of, was the Marines. Basically, I think I got 2 units and the characters. So I could really do with some more Marines for this, Colonial Marines.
But what I think you've just done there, sir, is talk yourself into getting it.
Yeah.
Just,
And also, to be fair, I can justify it because it's not a new game system. I'm not really interested. Again, I'm just not interested. It just seems a bit meh. Seen it, done it. Sorry, TT
sorry,
Combat.
TT.
I mean, I don't think their idea is a bad idea, because there are certain gamers will like the accessibility of a rule system that basically plays very similarly at any scale. But as somebody who's got far too many rule systems in games already, I need something to justify it to myself. Do you know what I mean? I need a unique feature, and I don't see one in this game except for the beautiful models. So sorry, guys. Do you know what? This is seamless. It's almost like we've done this before.
Have we? Have we really, though?
Talking of Aliens versus Predator, the Alien RPG from Free League is getting a new edition. This again is going to go crowdfunding, I think. Don't ask me which platform. I think they mention it in this interview.
Kickstarter or GameFound, let's be
It'll be one of them.
fucking honest.
I have never played this game, but I do love the Alien universe. I've got several of the books from the first edition, and they're just beautiful books. I've read them. I would love to play the game, but I don't have the time. I've mentioned it before on this stream many times. I'm afraid for me, miniature games is first, and then role-playing games and the other stuff comes when I've got time for it. And the brutal truth is you rarely do, because miniature games absorbs all of my time. Maybe when I get retired, when I hit 60 and I can drop another work day and then have more leisure time, I might get back into role-playing games more seriously. And I'm not
What's
one
that,
for...
next year, then?
Oh yeah, I can really afford to drop a work day next year. I don't fucking Coco. But yeah, I'm not like Jerry. I don't have like a bookshelf full of role-playing games. I don't normally collect them. There has to be something quite special to engage me. But this is special, and I will probably be backing this just to have the stuff to say, oh, I've got this, it's cool. So I don't know what everybody else thinks, or if anybody else here has played this game.
I'm just meh. But I'm meh on the Aliens franchise as a whole.
Yeah,
couldn't really give a fuck.
It makes sense that this doesn't really float your boat, then, mate. All I've got to do is paint all the models, Trev. That's all I've got to do.
Yeah,
so yeah,
not a small task, is it? It's 5 minutes and you'll be done.
This interview is well worth a watch, particularly. Yeah, I think this game, for me, this game is in the same. This is the other reason I like the idea of it, Ewok. I like the idea of this and Call of Cthulhu more than games like Dungeons and Dragons now, because the horror theme means that they're great for one shots. Prepare the game, play the game, walk away. You
Yeah,
haven't
you
got to,
haven't got to commit 25
yes,
sessions and all
yeah.
the other bullshit that goes with it.
You're not going to be playing it every fortnight for the next 2.5 years. Oh, nice. Do you know what? We've done a live stream about communities keeping these dead games alive, and that's one thing that I will say about the fan community for Games Workshop that dates back to the 80s and 90s. The love that these products were held in and the esteem is amazing. The way that people commit so much time and energy to keeping them alive is really impressive.
Yeah,
and
but when
really
you're
nice.
several thousand pounds in a hole, what do you expect to happen? Sorry, did I say that out loud? Sorry.
Okay, so David's just written off both of those games as sunk cost fallacy, Toros. Oh my god, that's fucking brutal.
No, but you know the thing is, it's gonna be true for like fucking when Necromunda, this edition of Necromunda dies. There's gonna be some proper fucking diehards on the internet keeping it alive as long as they can.
Yeah, I'm not being funny, mate, but I don't think they're going to be doing it because they've gutted that they've spent all this money on this game. I think people do actually enjoy Games Workshop's games.
Sorry, you just made me be a little bit sick in my mouth.
I know that the games for that have been released in the last 15 years. Yeah, I'm with you there. Dear. Trolls in the Pantry. That was one of the fucking board games from like the 80s, wasn't it, mate?
It's also apparently where David lives.
Do you know Free League? Free League are a company to watch for the future, cheese me. They did that. They brought that Scandinavian role-playing game to the UK, didn't they? They translated it into English. It's like the Scandinavian answer to Dungeons and Dragons that Jerry raves about. They've got some. They brought that Mutant Year Zero game. Looks really cool. I like this company. I like the way they approach stuff. They do
Like
interesting projects. Ewok says he spat at Warhammer World as he drove past. That's fucking brilliant. Oh dear.
To be fair, I'm not a million miles away from it on Saturday.
Yeah, totally get it, Ewok. There's just something lovely about role-playing books. As a Dragonbane, that's the one I was thinking of, cheese me. There's just something nice. That is a Free League one, isn't it? I am not mental, am I? I think it was a Free League one anyway. But yeah.
Boys and girls, can we just take a moment before we get on to the topic to just
I've only got one more.
Chat and respect Paul's mental health, because Paul in his old age is double booking himself, not only for club sessions, but for tournaments that have been booked several months in advance.
Oh dear, as Vic Reeves said, you wouldn't let it lie!
No, why should I let it lie? You were looking forward to it and everything, you built your list, and then at the 11th hour you just go, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, unfortunately my stepson is coming up. Well, I say unfortunately, I don't mean it to sound like that. My stepson that we rarely see because he lives down Brighton Woking way, wanted to come up for a long weekend at home. So we're sort of like, he's coming over Friday night and staying till Monday, and so unfortunately I'm going to be missing out on the Mantic event this Saturday. So it's a shame, but obviously family comes first. And like I say, we rarely see John because of where he lives in the country. So we're going to go out for a family meal instead.
Evening, Tim. Tim's back.
Hello,
Tim
Tim.
lost.
I take
Did
it
you
you
lose,
got
Tim?
completely destroyed. You were beaten roundly, were you?
Spanked with a mechanical hand.
Yeah. Oh, dear. He's overheated. Standing there in his Y-fronts, losing at Battletech. Oh, I'm too hot. I'm too hot.
Paul hoping to draw himself in the tournament. True, I suppose you can't go 4-0 losses if you don't attend the tournament.
Yeah. My results can only get better. So, tried the new Mercs and yes, they went poof. Oh dear. Never mind then.
Right, what's this last one before we get on to raving for the next?
So the last one is not this one. The last one is, it's the same guy, Guerrilla Miniature Games. So Ash, this is just personal opinion, but Ash, as off Guerrilla Miniature Games, over the years has experimented with loads of different formats of the talking head style video. He's done loads of different formats in the lifespan of his channel, and I think he's got a really good manner and he's got great friends. They've got that correct mix of intellectualism, for want of a better word, and sort of like just absolute geekiness that makes listening to them chat to each other really compelling.
Is it the antithesis of us because we rip the shit out of each other too often?
Yeah, whereas we're more like two 12-year-olds taking the piss, they're sort of more like middle-aged men who have just got that geek that runs through them, like Blackpool Rock, which nobody who lives outside the UK will get, but just roll with it. And this is his latest video. I don't think he's done one after this, but basically he gets his mate Chris in, who's runs a local game store in Ontario area of Canada. And they talk about the games industry and shit like that. And this is a really cool video where they discuss what it's like from Chris's perspective and to some degree Ash's perspective, having been a senior retail manager for Games Workshop USA. What it would take for these smaller games to actually get into game stores to start competing with Games Workshop. Because like even Lords of War Games and Hobbies, which is Chris's shop, which is an independent game store in Canada, I think he says they do 70% of their turnover is GW still, which is a scary statistic.
Yeah, but the problem is it's a household name, isn't it? How many times have we said before on the channel, people that get started get hooked on GW? You don't find many people that are just starting out on their wargaming journey going and buying fucking Saga minis.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to be fair, Chris says, like, I mean, I know he's Canada and you're Texas, aren't you, Crispin? I know Chris is Canada, but I mean, they've had Flames and War come and gone, Malifaux come and gone, Night Models, Batman come and gone.
The Malifaux does surprise me, considering we are in the States and obviously would be significantly easier to actually stock keep it compared to UK distributors.
To be
Looking
fair,
at you, Wayland.
to be fair, mate, when you watch these videos, there's reasons all of them have failed. So Night Models, I think it was a distribution and quality control issue. Malifaux basically tried to go direct sales to customers and sort of like let their distribution model collapse because basically distributors wouldn't touch them when they started selling the vast majority of their stuff direct to customer. It's all horrendously complicated. But the truth of it is that Games Workshop still dominate the independent sector. But this video's good because obviously it says, well, if I was to give, as somebody who runs a store, if I was to give a company who wanted me to stock their products some advice, I would say do this, that, and the other. And from that point of view, I think it's quite an interesting little video if you're into the sort of like the chat about the industry stuff.
Yeah, the sort of sideboard, so to speak, rather than the main event.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Tim, they talk about this in Games Workshop. Have like the way Chris talks about Games Workshop is almost their distribution model now is you will take this shit. This is what we've got for you. You know, it'll be delivered on Wednesday.
If you want to maintain your distribution license,
you just have to take
it, and we'll deliver this on Wednesday for you.
And again, you can totally understand why, because from GW's point of view, if they want to bury these independent shops in stock and dominate their business.
Well, again, it gets consistency across the marketplace, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That if it's not available from your local GW online distribution center because FOMO and scalpers being cunts, go down to your local gaming store because they have 2 copies. So if you're really looking and you're getting queue early enough in the morning, you'll have a copy there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, again, all of these little details and foibles of the industry are talked about in these videos that Ash does with Chris. And it's, as I say, if you're at all interested in that sort of stuff, good watch. So that's it. That's the news, guys. Let's get on to the main topic. Let's just go straight into it.
Right. This has been a topic, what? Over 10 years in the making? But genuinely.
Well, we got into Frostgrave pretty much when it was released, wasn't it?
Yeah, not long after I came back from uni, which would have been 2015.
Yeah, which was when the first edition was printed in 2015, I believe.
Yeah.
Because I checked my rulebook last night. But first of all, I'll tell you what this is not. Whoops, I've done it wrong. Bollocks. Just hang on a minute. Technical difficulties. I bet you that.
Are you teasing things to the internet before we're ready to tease them to the internet?
That is not right. Fuck. Okay, I did have a video queued up, but I've now deleted it, so I haven't got a video queued up. What this discussion is not is how to play Frostgrave. Okay, so we're going to talk about why we love the game Frostgrave, but we're not going to discuss how to play it. If you want to know how to do that, just go and Google how to play Frostgrave. You'll get a ton of videos pop up on YouTube. Guerrilla Miniature Games did a fantastic one for first and second edition. On Tabletop have done them, I think, again when second edition came out. So there's loads of videos like that, but that's not what we're talking about tonight.
There's plenty of resources out there, and we're not going to reskin old resources because other people can do better jobs of that than we can.
Yeah, we're just going to talk in the broadest terms. So Frostgrave, like David says, we've been playing Frostgrave since about 2015. Got 10 years of experience with it now. I own pretty much everything ever printed. There's a few things. I don't own the objective cards. the ulterior motive cards, but you
That's
have
handy, that, because I own them.
yeah, you have those, which is precisely why I didn't buy them. And I don't think I've got all of the copies of Spellcaster. I know that you've got them all, haven't you?
No,
Oh.
I've got a certain point, I believe.
Okay. So we got a lot, but not necessarily all.
And again, you have first edition, second edition, all of the scenarios, expansions that are released for that. Here's an interesting point. Do you own any North Star miniatures, sir?
I do not.
They're the official one.
I do not own.
I use official in bunny ears, and we'll come on to that later.
I do not own any of the North Star miniatures, but like you say, we will come on to that later. First of all, I think let's open the gambit. I agree, Darren, but I tell you what, that is true of every supplement for Frostgrave, that it adds so much to the game. The North Star miniatures are great and brilliant for kit. I must confess, the plastic kits look fucking amazing, but we'll come to that. So, let's talk about the first thing that when David and I were making notes last night, the first thing that we put down as why we love Frostgrave is the rule set. So,
the system itself, so simple.
Yeah.
Have a wizard, have an apprentice, have some lackey soldiers. Roll some dice for initiative at the start of the round, activate your wizard or group activate and take some soldiers with him. Do the same for your apprentice. Anything that hasn't activated, that activates in the soldier phase. And then after all of that, the bad guys on the table get to go. And then you go to the top of round and go again. That's a really nice system. The other thing that's really nice about it is the actual dice mechanic itself. Movement's done really simply. Combat is just a D20 roll. Yes, it can be a little swingy, backwards and forwards, but the principle being it's really simple to get a master. I'm yet to come across somebody that hasn't mastered it within 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it doesn't matter whether you're casting a spell or making a movement check for some of the more advanced scenarios or whatever. You roll a d20, check it against the target number, add a stat or add a number, and did you get the target number? If you did, well done, you passed. It could not be simpler. And like I say, it's universal. You don't have different dice for damage. You don't roll low for this, roll high for that. It's just everything's D20 plus stat, get number. It's
D20 plus stat compared to table or compared to opponent's roll.
Yeah, it's dead simple. Now
Tim, I haven't played you because you're German and far away, sir.
No,
but I'm even sure you would get Frostgrave in a game or 2.
Definitely. I'll be honest, I don't think there's anybody, even the filthiest casual who does not play any kind of other miniature war game or role-playing game, that has played Frostgrave at the club and not got it quite quickly.
There is only, in the 10 years we are playing, and Jack, if you're watching this later, this is no discredit to you, buddy. There is only one guy that has bounced hard off Frostgrave.
That is true,
Everybody else that's played has liked it, has want to play some more. Jack just likes his GW, and he just couldn't wrap his head around the magic with the fact that you roll for shit and it's random and everything else.
That I think was Jack's biggest issue with the game, which is something that David has alluded to already. So the basic rule set is so fucking easy to learn. You can literally I won't use the word master because I don't think you can master Frostgrave, but you can get the gist of what you need to do within a game. Within a half an hour,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing. The issue for Jack, and I think for a lot of players, is that the D20 roll, when combined with some of the optional rules like critical hits and that sort of thing, makes the game incredibly... Some cruel people would say random. Some nicer people...
Swingy would be a
Some
better
nicer
word
people
for
would
it.
say cinematic.
Yeah. Having John Rambo, that we've raved about on this channel before, who is an orc that had no place in taking down a giant worm in one shot, take down a worm in one shot, is cinematic as fuck.
I mean, I think because obviously a D20 by its sheer nature rolls a large range of results, and like David says, there was a game where just a random orc nobody who was part of my warband just rolled enough 20s that he killed everything he touched, which is in one sense it's very fun, and it gives you that water cooler moment that you'll talk about for months. But in another way, it can be...
Don't get overly attached.
Yeah, it can be very frustrating if you're the kind of person who likes to fucking set up your pieces for some really clever, play where you've stacked the advantages in your favour such that you can't really lose. This isn't the game for you, because there's very little way to mitigate the randomness. You can't
the best way of mitigating randomness comes down to melee combat and stacking the odds in your favour and exposing more guys to melee combat.
Yeah, but even then, it's like when you... Let's say, for example, you put 3 guys against a monster. So you're outnumbering the monster 3-1. Let's say your guy's got a fight of 2. He's got 2 friends, so you're rolling D20 and adding 6. Let's say the monster is rolling D20 and adding 2. If you roll a 1 and he rolls a 20, he is one-shotting you.
Yeah.
So it's like...
I again, not arguing that fact, but the point being that is sort of the only control you have in the game.
Yeah.
Or picking your spells.
But I mean, if you compare that, if you compared that to Infinity, mate, where you could like take a burst 3 against a burst 1, so you're rolling 3 times the number of dice.
Yeah.
You can add a potential 12 to your stat. Infinity caps at plus or minus 12 on a D20 roll. I mean, it's a completely different game. So while some might see it as a con, I disagree and say that it's one of the great features of Frostgrave, and one of the things that means that it appeals to such a wide audience, because it asks you to just engage in the events that play out.
Play the story, play the mission.
Yeah.
Have an experience with your friends. Talk about it afterwards. It is not super grindy, super tactical of making the right decision at the right point and not getting bitch slapped by the AI, etc.
Yeah. I mean, I think that brings us nicely into the next thing that we both love about the game, and that is the scenarios and the scenario structures. So you can, in the basic rulebook, there is a vanilla mode where you can forego any kind of special scenario rules, put ruins on the table, put treasure tokens on the table, and play the game. collect the treasure tokens, and leave. With no other bells, no other whistles. But where Frostgrave shines is the core rulebook itself in the second edition has 20, count them, 20 scenarios with little narratives woven into them. So, for example, there's a scenario called The Well, where in addition to just collecting the treasure tokens, the wizards can go and drink from the magical well, and then you roll a random dice, and basically it can either fucking kill your wizard or turn him into a Superman or anything in between. It's as random as hell, and it gives you experience points.
Again, you've got the worm hunts, which is sort of always the classic that I've played as an intro scenario.
Yeah.
So the worm hunts is everybody's going to get the treasures. It's a giant worm that's going to appear randomly at some point under some treasure, and nobody's really got any idea where, when, how, etc. You just roll it randomly on the end of turn. But pretty much when it turns up, it's big, it's bad, it's nasty, it will fuck you up, but it's hilarious playing it.
Yeah, because you just have to lean into the story. It could be that the worm will kill absolutely everything in your and your opponent's warband and leave you with just an empty table and a fat worm in the middle of it. Or it could be that your absolutely improbably weedy thug who literally only joined the warband yesterday goes up to it and one shot kills it with a ridiculous natural 20 or something. So basically all bets are very much on with this game. Anything can happen, and
Yeah.
This, aside from the base game, once you get away from the core rulebook, you then get into the next set aspect of Frostgrave, which is the supplement books. Now,
yeah,
all of the supplement books contain, because this again is the other thing that I think people miss that's actually genius. What Joseph could have done is done a book that was like just extra soldiers for your warband, right? And then he could have done a book that was just extra magic items for your wizards to find.
Extra terrain for you to play with in your game.
But he didn't do that. What Joseph did was he took an idea for a narrative campaign, and he built a series of missions and story around that for pretty much each of his supplements. There are some exceptions where the missions aren't linked. But basically, he took a theme, built a small... and the campaigns vary in size from the ridiculous 12-episode Red King to the much more manageable 6-episode Wildwoods. But then he adds in a little bit of extra magic items, a few extra soldiers, a little bit more terrain rules or warband development rules, okay? And what he does is he seeds each of his supplement books with just a little bit of everything that make his game fun.
I tell you what it is. It's the equivalent of, and I know this is going to sound really racist, but it's the equivalent of the Chinese...
Don't say it then.
It's the equivalent of the Chinese putting MSG in everything. But it is, though, because it's spread across everything. It makes want more of it.
That's brilliant. Do you know what, mate? I hope somebody clips that, because that is, we should send it to Joseph, see if he wants to put it on his blog. The most bizarre fucking Frostgrave. It's a bit like MSG. Oh my god, if he puts that on the back of the next book, I will piss myself. That's brilliant.
Just saying.
But yeah, I think
Can
it's
I
a thing.
just touch on the first negative here?
Oh no, don't get negative early, you.
No, I'm not getting too negative too early, but I think it really fits right now because you've just raved about the scenarios and we've raved about the fact that obviously there's a lot of content in this, and Joseph has MSG laced these everywhere, and it's really good. Because each scenario booklet is set in its own like little bit of Frostgrave, and he's done a lot of world building here. Actually, there then becomes the issue of, well, actually, I need monsters and terrain, and there's an overhead associated with it. That's the only negative I want to touch on at this point. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a massive one. It's just a now, Joe. It's lovely what you're doing, and don't get me wrong, absolutely hooked on it. Slightly infuriating though at the same time.
I'll be honest. I don't think it's unfair to say, and I in a way it is a testament to Frostgrave as a game design. The biggest criticism and the biggest complaint you could level at it, as David's just said, is that to play these really interesting scenarios and story missions, you want to be hobbying your little heart out. So, I mean, just to emphasize the fact, we're just finishing Red King, and we were looking to start Wildwoods maybe later this year. So the first thing we've got to do is look through the book, read the scenarios, and decide what terrain we need. So, like for the first terrain, we need a 6-inch square mausoleum type model that's sinking into a quagmire. Because
niche,
I
to
mean,
say the least.
Yeah, slightly. Yes, Darren makes a We're going to come to that, Darren. We are going to come to that. So, but and I'm not really talking. I think the other thing that, because each of these supplements expands the bestiary, the wandering monsters, and the creatures that you fight. Monosodium glutamate, cheese me. Yeah, so it's basically that umami food additive flavor enhancer.
AKA Chinese.
What was I saying?
Cocaine.
So Joseph expands the bestiary and the monsters of Frostgrave in each of the supplements. And to be honest, with the sheer amount of third-party support for miniatures, both 3D printed and think the best way we can describe MSG, cheese me, is think of salt. You know the way you season food with salt to enhance its flavour? MSG does the same thing, but it also adds like a meaty, like that gravy flavour. The technical term for it is umami, UMAMI, but basically it just adds that sort of like
depth is probably
depth
the best
of flavour, to meat products and that sort of thing. So what were we talking about? So there is so much support out there from companies. In fact, I've got some. Let's show the kids. Let's show the kids.
Should we tip our hat actually first before you start showing people the third-party content?
Yeah.
And just mention the fact that Joseph took the decision to do this game and basically only do the rules, and then has done a little bit of third-party content with the likes of North Star. Other than that, it's been pretty open to play what you want, use what you want, enjoy what you want, make the game yours, whether that be through 3D printing that Paul's going to show here, or go buy some stuff from the likes of Reaper or WizKids, or keep going, keep naming
North
and
Star
everything else.
is the one.
Again,
So I've got North Star on the screen now. They do a huge range of plastic box sets with sprues. So you've got cultists, you've got barbarians.
Rangers, which
They also do
reindeer.
individual metal figures. I don't think they do resins. I think they're either metals and plastics at North Star, but they do everything from weird exotic monsters to basic. So here you've got the white gorilla monster, some quite unusual miniatures that might be tricky to find.
Vapor snakes, anybody? Phase cats? And you may argue, well, what are they?
They're
Vapor
Frostgrave
snakes are
monsters.
snakes made of mist that are specific for some scenarios. Phase cats are cats that phase in and out of existence. Think Displacer beasts from D&D, but friendlier, not so feral version.
There is an official terrain range made by the Bits of War, which I think is related to Cromlech or is part of the Cromlech company. So these are MDF, I believe, and resin, probably a mixture of both for the bigger pieces. But they are unpainted, I think I'm correct in saying, and you have to paint them.
You think you are, sir.
So there's some really nice terrain bits in here. If you want to go and have a look at this, and as I say, this is an official terrain range. But then there's loads of unofficial ones. I found this earlier. So this is very similar to what we've got at the club. This is Urban Matt's pre-painted ruin set. Now you could just buy these.
Look like they've bought the molds from.
Yeah, I think they are subtly different. I don't think they're identical, but they're very similar.
Ever so slightly different.
Yeah, but they are very similar to the ones we bought originally from Game Mat EU. And these are literally cast resin molds that have been at a basic paint job. But you can slap some fucking ice and snow finish on these, and you're golden.
Shall we then lead into it feeds my ones and zeros itch? I've done an entire table for you.
Yeah.
I've done.
Well, look, I mean, when the Kickstarters look like this, can you fucking wonder that it feeds his ones and zeros itch? There is so much good stuff here. You built me an entire table of terrain from
printable scenery.com.
Printable scenery.com.
It's their not Shadow Fae. What was the fucking one before that? There was one before Shadow Fae that they did, and it was a lot of
I thought it did
bits and pieces and everything else. Really, really nice. And again, hats off to Joe on this one for not shutting it down, locking it down. The fact that Paul recently, this campaign that we've just played, has been playing with a bunch of fucking dog miniatures, boys and girls, as his war band. The fact that it just relies on base contact, doesn't really even care much about base sizing, does it, mate?
Not really.
On miniatures.
No. Again, if you're worrying about whether your models are on 20mm, 35mm, 40mm, you don't.
Squares or rounds,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Frostgrave is not that complicated a game, and it's not a game where it matters that much. And plus the fact, to be honest, here's another thing, right? If you're worrying about whether you're, when you run past a model, whether because you're on a smaller base, you would normally be within 1 inch, so I could snap to you and attack you. You're not playing Frostgrave in the spirit which it was intended. Let the story unravel in the coolest way possible. And just go with it. It doesn't have complicated disengagement and mechanics, which is, to be fair, that's probably the only. Here's my first con, right? I think something that they should add to Frostgrave 3rd edition is a way to escape combat. Because as the rules are written currently, once you get attacked in close combat, if you can't beat your opponent and push them an inch off you, you can't escape.
Can I hard counter you here right now?
Go on then.
You've already discussed at the top of this show about the fact it's on a D20 and it's swingy.
Yes,
you
true.
don't need to damage your opponent. If your opponent is only adding 2 or even 6 to their dice and they roll shit, and you roll 1 more,
true.
You can bitch slap that puppy away and then run.
All I'm saying is there have been a fair few games where the only frustration from me has come from I've got a guy who's bogged in combat and monsters keep running up to him, rolling really badly but not able to damage him because they're rolling under his armor score. But he doesn't roll very high either, so he can't get away. And it just grinds. Push does allow you to push your own models out of combat, Darren. You are correct.
Allows you to leap out of combat. So there's counters to it.
There are ways to use your wizard to do it, I guess. But it's one of those few things that I just wish there was a way to just leave combat. I find it a little bit, because again, I like the way that Frostgrave doesn't necessarily reward engaging for the sake of engaging to kill shit. It rewards play where you creatively grab the treasure chests and get out before shit goes south. And the only thing that seems to run counter to that philosophy is this problem that when something sticks to you, if you can't beat it and get it off, and even then...
Dude! Fuck's sake!
Shall we move on?
Well, that's my night fucking ruined.
Let's just mention one other thing.
Can I come to the next thing that I absolutely love about Frostgrave?
Yeah, go on.
So Paul's already sort of touched on it, that you can play Frostgrave as a rock up, put some treasures down, play, or scenarios.
I am here.
In the background to all of this is a campaign system. So the campaign system, I'm going to make it sound more complicated than it is. It's 3 or A4 pages printed out. One has your wizard and your apprentice stats on. One has all of the spells on. The other has all of your soldiers and lackeys on. That is all you need to manage your Frostgrave game. Rock up, play a game, record results, apply level ups and experience to your wizard and apprentice. So improve their stats, learn some spells, that kind of stuff. Go away, no thinking about it, no intermittent bullshit of having to sort out stuff midweek for a campaign game. And the other beautiful thing about it, level 10, level 15, level 20 wizards are just at home playing against a level 0 wizard that's just been rolled up that evening for that particular session. It's literally one of the best, least involved campaign systems I know of. I don't know what you think, sir.
I totally agree. Because the other aspect to the campaign system that I think is really good is that wizards are capped at 3 experience increases per game they play. So even
3
if
levels.
you were absolutely to smash it out of the park and ruffle stomp your opponent, there is a limit to how badly they can fall behind. The other thing is, it forces you to spread your upgrades out. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to focus all of my upgrades into this one thing and become super good at it, so that it doesn't allow that.
Can we caveat this with, this is based off the back of 2nd edition, and again, elements of the rule set that were broken in 1st edition, like you can bring as many archers as you like, and you can apply all of your level ups to your fight and HP stats to begin with, and stack those, got fixed in 2nd edition.
Yeah, they got fixed within... I mean, do you know what? This is another thing that we've forgotten to mention, really, and probably should have been higher up the list, but Frostgrave has been around since 2015. It has had only 2 editions, which is fantastic in terms of stability. Compared to other war games on the market, not mentioning any names, Games Workshop, the fact that the product is very stable is a real boon. And as there were changes to 2nd edition, but they were all quality of life stuff. There was nothing radical, there was nothing dramatic. It was all just little tweaks for balance. None of the core conceits of the game were flipped on their head or done completely differently, were they, mate?
No.
It was very much business as usual, but improved.
The biggest thing was the crit rule.
The crit rule was changed, yeah.
The crit rule was changed. That was the biggest thing. So rather than it being roll your 20, add your stats, so you end up at something like 24, 25, compare it to your opponent's armor at 10, so that would be 14 damage. Most things don't even have 14 damage anyway.
14 health, yeah.
14 health. And it doubles to like 28.
Yeah.
Now it's only 14 plus 5, so you're only doing 19. It's still going to one-shot most fucking things, let's be brutally honest, but it was just a little tweak. That was the biggest change between 1st and 2nd.
The other thing, while we're talking about the crit roll, another superb thing about the entire Frostgrave system is the way that Joseph has made lots of the features of his game optional by design. Okay, I think there is only...
You can play with encumbered, can't you?
Well, you can play with wounded, which is the one rule we don't play with, wounded. But you can play... Crits are entirely optional. Some of the special rules in each of the supplements are optional. But another thing that Joseph is fantastic for doing when he's writing his supplements and his rules, if something's going to be a problem, or there are scenarios where you can break the game, Joseph will normally call it out. So you'll read a section of say you'll read a mission deployment, there'll be a box out, and Joseph will say, warning, this mission doesn't translate well for 3 or 4 players because of X, Y, and Z. You might want to consider doing this, that, and the other. The man is really good at sort of like filling in where there might be traps or holes and second guessing what people might be trying to do with his game. I think he's probably the best out of any rules writer I've ever seen for doing that.
How many games of Frostgrave have we played in the entire time we've been playing Frostgrave? Must be the other side of 100.
Very true, Cheeseme. Very true.
And there is only one scenario that we have struggled with deployment.
Yeah.
Because of it not being well explained in the rules.
Yeah.
So therefore, very well written, very well done. And the only reason it got confusing is because Joseph, bless his soul, included a really good diagram for how the table works, but
Yeah.
forgot to include the deployment of the pillars on that particular map that he'd done.
Without going into too much detail, the board split itself into 3 strips, and all of the objectives had to be placed on a cross. And as soon as we were setting the table up, we realised that if you set the cross up north-south like that, or if you set the cross up with a 45-degree tilt like that, it gave you drastically different objective deployments. And we were like, oh, and it wasn't clear how it should be. It was one of them things where we had to talk it through and sort of think, well, what do you think he meant?
But 1 in 100 is not bad.
No, I mean, bearing in mind, you know, that's probably the first time I think we've ever had to do that. Like Dave says, since fucking 2015, that's not a bad game average, really, for the scenarios. The other thing that we have not mentioned yet, and that should really be obvious, is how ridiculously fucking cheap this game is to get into.
Core book's what, 20 odd quid at the moment?
So yeah, the rulebook's 20 something. Most of the supplements are between 18 and 22 from like third party retailers. They're a bit more expensive. I think they're about 22 to 25 from Osprey, but you can get them cheaper from elsewhere. You need the core book. You need literally pretty much any 10 models. You can play this game with any fucking models you like. If you've got models from your, I don't know, fucking, what's that?
Warcry Vampires, anybody?
Yeah, got a Warcry warband, got a couple of Underworlds warbands you want to use. Want to play with the little plastic mice from that board game about Mice and Mystics or whatever the fuck it's called. Play with anything you like. I'm playing with the plastic dogs from Steamforged Dungeons and Doggos range.
Yeah.
You just need 10 figures. If you've got to spend money, you've been doing miniature wargaming wrong, because you should have 10 figures from somewhere.
All in, 10 figures, book, couple of D20s, pencil, and a rubber.
Yep.
You're playing for 50 quid.
Yep. And scenarios are optional. The spawning monsters when you pick up treasure chest is optional. So you don't need to start collecting a huge bestiary of creatures. And even if you do, use anything you fucking got. If you want, yes, the scenario says you've got to have these sort of like reindeer men that are a cross between sort of like reindeers and human beings. But if you've got orcs, just use fucking orcs. The stat lines are ridiculously simple. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Was there another con on that list, sir? I'm just thinking as we're coming to the end.
Another
you said
con.
About overhead. Actually, yeah, I remember.
Yes,
con.
Yeah, there is a con.
So
there's 2.
It's been a vogue lately, and Paul touched on it earlier with Mythic, to have solo modes. There is no solo mode as core in Frostgrave. It's in one of the scenario books, but has Joseph missed a trick here? That's just a question that I want to pose to you guys. Because it's Perilous Dark?
Correct.
Solo?
Correct. There is a supplement called Perilous Dark. I was trying to find it on my shelf. Hang on. Yeah, Perilous Dark. So that is Again, it's a little solo mini campaign where the scenarios have got like their own sort of AI rules in them. To be fair, because you have wandering monsters that have an AI profile anyway, you can play this game solo. It really doesn't need to be spelled out for you. The only thing that you might need to do if you're running it solo is increase the amount of wandering monsters. Because there's rules for spawning random creatures, there's rules to tell you how to manage them. So, like, there's a little flow chart. It's like a basic computer logic program. Are they within charge, or can they attack something?
Have they got line of sight?
Are they engaged in combat? Yes, they attack. Are they? If no, can they get into combat? Yes, then they attack. Can they not get into combat? Do they have a ranged weapon? Then they shoot. It's really simple shit. And that's in the core game. That's in the core rulebook.
Yeah, it's just all I'm saying is it's just a shame that there isn't a page devoted to solo rules and saying, like, if you're going to play this campaign solo, you must be playing with the optional wandering monster rules. You should ideally
I guess that's fair.
Have 3 or 4 roles on this table on the board from the beginning of the game. Do you know what I mean? And doing that work in the background that we would have to do to create a rule set.
Yeah. I mean, Darren says he's played the game solo a few times, and it's really all about customizing or creating solo scenarios. Totally agree, mate. But I don't know if you'd agree, Darren, to actually tune up or tune down a standard scenario isn't that difficult, is it? Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, Shakos, if it is your birthday. Presumably that's why you're in Berlin. Don't get too drunk.
Yeah, it is Shakos' birthday.
There's one other con that we did want to call out. In fairness, in a spirit of fairness, we found when we first started playing the game, we quickly moved on to playing 3-player because actually when first edition hit, we had a lot of people engaged. We had 4 or 5 people playing Frostgrave at the club at once most of the time. It was a really popular game when it first landed. The problem we found, if everybody brings their full 10 model warband, what is a light, fun game very quickly became a grind that outstayed its welcome. So we put in a house rule where, exactly like the multi-award winning Moonstone does, if there's 2 players, that's 20 models, 10 each. 3 players, 7 each, 21 models. 4 players, 5 each, 20 models. So as your player count goes up, your model count goes down, and you can still get the game done in 2 hours.
And I would like to just caveat it with, we haven't played a 5-player game because at that point, when you're only playing with 4 miniatures, it doesn't really truly feel like Frostgrave anymore.
Yeah, because obviously once you start to shrink your warband, there comes a point when, like, what's the point? You're only playing with your wizard and your apprentice. It's a bit mad. Darren, interestingly enough, says, yes, we played a 4-player Stargrave and it took ages. We found the same thing, Darren. We weren't brilliantly observant. It was literally, we learned by bitter experience. If you start a 4-player Frostgrave game with 40 miniatures, do you remember when we did that dragon scenario at my house and we were still playing
I think that's what started it all, wasn't it? Because it took us 5 and a bit hours.
We were playing at like midnight, and it was only because we were doing it at my home and not at the club that we were able to finish it. And we were immediately like, we've got a problem.
One thing I would like to touch on, and Darren's brought it up.
Yep.
There is a different setting. There's Frostgrave, Ghost Archipelago for those who want tropical pirate exploration instead. And there's Stargrave. This is the only other negative I have for Joseph in regards to this. Is Ghost Archipelago is a core book, and what did we say last night? 4 expansions?
No,
and
2.
The last
Only 2, mate, I think.
I
2019...
3, I think there is, and the last one was released in 2019, so
Yeah.
before COVID.
Yeah, 3. Bronze something. Anyway, carry on.
Stargrave released in 21.
Yeah, something like that.
And already has a ridiculous amount of supplements and bolt-ons for it. Part of what I said to Paul last night in the pre-show for this was, I just think Ghost Archipelago in particular was a bit of a misstep from Joseph. It cannibalized too much people that played Frostgrave. Is the genuine 2 cents on the matter. Unlike Stargrave, where it's sci-fi versus fantasy, Ghost Archipelago is very much fantasy, but in the tropics. It could have been done as part of the world building and as a supplement for Frostgrave instead. But then Paul did have a pushback on that, well, would it have worked kind of thing? Because there is differences between Frostgrave and Ghost Archipelago with the magic, for example.
Yeah, the thing is, I agree with David. Yeah, I think the supplements are Lost Colossus, what bronze,
Something with bronze in, and Gods of Fire. Or
Gods of Fire,
like that.
yeah. Cities of Bronze, Gods of Fire, and Lost Colossus, I think, are the 3 gaming supplements. Lost Colossus is out of stock. You can only get it as an ebook. The problem with Ghost Archipelago is, I think he should have gone straight to Stargrave. I think that, like David said, there was too much crossover with Frostgrave. The reason the game never flourished was I don't think there was enough for people who were already invested in Frostgrave to be bothered with it.
Night Pandy.
Night Pandy. That was Paul from Pandyman Entertainment, by the way, if you're watching later on YouTube. And he came in a bit late, so he didn't get his rightful introduction. So go check him out on the internet. Yeah, it is what it is. Again, I think Joseph should have not done it and just done Stargrave earlier, because Stargrave has been way more successful for him. It has a much bigger separation from Frostgrave in terms of the player interest, and I think it just would have worked better for him.
And again, I just wanted to play devil's advocate at the tail end of this, because again, as we said, we're not salty about the Ghost Archipelago, Stargrave, Frostgrave situation. Hats off to Joseph for lifting something that works and trying to cut it into different settings. And yeah, Frostgrave, Ghost Archipelago was a bit of a misstep for him, but he's fucking knocked it out of the park with Stargrave from what I can see online.
And Silver Bayonet. Silver Bayonet's doing really well. With some, again, he's just reinventing the wheel to one degree, but he's created a unique thematic setting, slight change to the dice mechanics. I think there's enough there to make it different as a play experience. I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. We've come to 10 o'clock and we've still got things that we haven't discussed on our list of things that we love about Frostgrave. There's the fact that the monster designs are really clever and unique to Frostgrave in a lot of ways. They're not just generic D&D rip-offs. There's the fact that the game is really well balanced, so that because there's no emphasis on real adversarial brutal play, it doesn't matter if you've got a level 15 warband and your friend decides to start a new warband.
I did touch that on briefly.
Oh, did you?
As part of the campaign dynamic and why I love the campaign dynamic in it.
But just the sheer replayability of the core book alone, 20 scenarios, 80 different spells, what's it, 15 or 20 different soldier types. There's so much to explore in the basic book.
Over 10 expansions now?
Yeah, there is over 10. You know, from
So
thought.
if you say for argument's sake, they're averaging 8 per book. You've got 20 in the core book. You've got 80 through all of the expansions and
Yeah.
supplements and scenarios. You have, if you play Frostgrave once a week, 2 years worth of content there.
Yeah.
This is so easily a game that you could make your only gaming commitment.
To be
Your
fair, that
only
is true.
desire.
Yeah. And to be honest, when you think about that, it's like you've got Colossus games like Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Old World. Those tend to be, there are a lot of players of tabletop miniatures for whom those games are the only game they play because the financial commitment is huge, the hobby commitment is huge for building armies. But to say that a little unprepossessing £20 rulebook can open the gates onto a hobby vista that could easily consume your entire hobby attention is such a credit to Joseph, and I don't think it's an exaggeration at all. I think it's definitely
not.
true.
I don't think it's an exaggeration in the slightest to say, as we've already touched on earlier tonight. Spend your 50 quid, get your core rule book, get your miniatures, get your dice, get your paper, get your pencils.
Yeah. And the only people, and like I said, David and I discussed it. There are so few people that I think would bounce off this game. The only, if you're, let's put it this way, if you thrive on the cut and thrust and endless change and grind of competitive 40k, where a quarter of an inch is the difference between victory and defeat, this isn't the game for you. Definitely not. But everybody else, there's something here for you. Because the other thing as well that may not have come across, we said about these little MSG lace tomes being a collection of loads of little bits sprinkled throughout Frostgrave. The beauty is it makes them all self-contained. You don't feel under pressure to buy all 10 supplements straight away because there are areas of the game that you won't enhance by. Just buy one.
Yeah, it's not a given like, and let's call Joseph out for this. Oathmark. He does a really nice rank and flank rule set called Oathmark with campaign play and stuff in that. You must have certain books to unlock certain factions.
Yeah, if you don't have the book, it's the faction is closed. Yep, definitely choose me.
Choose me. Watch this space. I will tell you after the weekend.
Just see how competitive the Armada gets. Look, guys, we're going to call it. It's gone time. Let us know in the comments below, and if there's anybody still watching in the chat, let us know what was that like, guys, for Why We Love. Do you like the format? Is this something we should do? Do you like us when we're better when we're moaning and bitching? Just tell us. Similarly, if you're watching along later on YouTube, let us know in the comments whether you like the format. Right. Thanks to everybody in the chat tonight. As usual, our co-stars here they make the stream more fun. They just make it for us, and it's great to have them here. Thank you very much if you're watching along later on YouTube. We appreciate you too. We only ask one thing of our audience. Please click the like button. If you want to do any of the other shit that's underneath all the other YouTube dance, then do whatever suits you and whatever you enjoy. But a like is all that we ask for because it will help to push us a little in the algorithm. And with that being said and being done, I think we're finished for another week, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, I think so.
So, We will see
What's
you
next week?
guys.
Why we hate
No.
GW?
Yeah.
We'll find out. Let's see what
Oh.
news brings.
Why we hate GW. Should we do, we could do like a charity stream, maybe 48 hours? See you later.
It's another Thursday night. I see Crispin's wearing tights. Sparrow's getting in the bath. Young David's full of wrath. Paula's tightening his straps. Where on his apron you saps. Technical difficulties, technical difficulties. They're really such a crime. Technical difficulties, technical difficulties. They happen all the time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop 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 time. Cheese Meat is on day release. Dan still tries not to crease. Ewoks keeping nice and warm. In bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the handyman is opening up a can. Technical difficulties, technical difficulties. They're really such a crime. Technical difficulties, technical difficulties. They happen all the time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop 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 time. Cheese Meat is on day release. Damn Chef tries not to crease. The Ewoks keeping nice and warm. In bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the handyman is opening another can. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop time. 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 Cheese Meat is on day release. Damn me up tries not to crease. And Ewoks keeping nice and warm. In bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the handyman is opening another can.